At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's learning environments are designed for supportive networking and collaboration. With over 330 academic programs, GCU provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
Hey guys, we're going to talk about aliens and Steven Spielberg and UFOs and all that stuff in this very special episode of the D-Res podcast. Stick around. All right, guys, welcome back. This is Neon, and I do have a very special guest. She hasn't been on the podcast yet. Geeky Sparkles is here.
Hello.
Hello. And
no one else is available.
No, that's not. No, that's not true. No, I wanted to talk about aliens and UFOs and stuff. People wondered when we brought the podcast back. They're like, "What's up with the UFO on the thumbnails?" Like, well, because eventually I want to start talking about paranormal stuff in this podcast too.
We do have a lot of experience.
We do.
Things.
We
yes.
do. Yeah, not a lot of people are going to listen to this compared to the Clownfish TV videos. So we can talk about this stuff.
So you can put me on here because not a lot of people will listen to it.
No, see, I save you for the good stuff that more people listen to. Right?
Yeah, nice save.
That's what we do.
Nice save.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Steven Spielberg and aliens because apparently he's doing another UFO movie. Now he's done several UFO movies, and there's, I guess, a bit of lore behind Steven Spielberg that some people, some ancient astronaut theorists say that Steven Spielberg is actually being used by the government to prep people for the first contact of aliens and humans, and that Close Encounters was kind of supposed to warm people up.
But that was like 50 years ago.
Yeah, but it's a slow warm up. It's like
he's 77. So for 50 years of his 77-year-old life, he was being used to warm people up to the idea of aliens.
Sometimes it takes a while.
But people are warmed up to the idea.
People are ready to go. They're just waiting for it. Actually, we'll talk about this because it's kind of a weird situation. You remember last year, for those of you listening, we had a little bit of an incident that there were UFOs being sighted all over the place. UFOs coming into the country. We've got the UFO footage being released by the government. People keep thinking there's going to be disclosure. They had some powwow in Congress or some kind of committee hearing, and it basically disappeared. Like all the UFO talk that we had last year at this time is just gone. Like nobody's talking about it. Well,
that usually happens when they're trying to distract you from something else. So look and see what else was going on last year at the same time.
Pretty much. That's what a lot of people were saying. They're like, oh, something. Look over there, UFO, aliens. But yeah, Steven Spielberg's been fascinated with aliens for a very long time. We're going to talk about this. His next movie, and he's 77 years old. His next movie is going to be another UFO movie. Now, he already did, of course, Close Encounters. He did E.T. He did War of the Worlds. He did the remake, the really scary one.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
It was horrifying. He mulched everybody.
It wasn't really my thing. Close Encounters I did like.
And
E.T. scared me as a child.
I was scared of E.T. too.
It was all the rage. We did get Reese's Pieces out of it, so there's that.
Yeah, he looks like a nutsack. He kind of does.
There's also that. No, he's talking about E.T., not Steven Spielberg.
Oh, no.
I have not seen him lately.
No, he's 77 though, so I don't know, but he can afford moisturizer. He might look okay. No, but like E.T., I remember it was one of the first movies that...
you remember that's what you thought when you were a kid?
No, I didn't. I just remember being terrified at the beginning because...
It was scary.
And I would see him on the covers of like magazines and stuff, and he was terrifying. Like, I know he's supposed to be cute.
Long.
Yeah, I know he's supposed to be cute, but I thought he was horrifying. He had this like really like grotesque head with a frog face.
Then he was connected to the kid, and then like the kid almost died because he almost died. And it was. I mean, I can see older kids and adults liking it, but when you were a little kid, it was kind of creepy AF, you know?
Well, they were going to make a sequel. This is true. They were going to make a sequel to E.T. It was called Night Terrors, and it was supposed to be about...
What?
I'm not kidding. It was supposed to be about the bad E.T.s. They were like E.T., but they were white with red eyes. So like albino E.T.s. And they were supposed to come and like kidnap Elliot and Gertie and like take them away and give them anal probes and stuff. And then E.T. was going to show up and kick their ass. And they never made that movie. I can't imagine why.
Sorry.
I would love to
That
see.
sounds like a more current year movie, honestly.
Yeah, I would love to see.
Especially the children with the anal probes.
I would love. Oh God, that'd be Disney. Disney Presents. No, I would love to see like Kung Fu E.T. or they could have like their
Kung Fu E.T.
like their neck wars or something. Like they're they're
They're
just.
gonna use this long neck to headbutt him, like it's gonna pop up.
I don't know. Yeah, they could. It'd be like Knock'em Sock'em Robots, where they just kind of pop the heads off, and they just kind of ram each other. Right, that sounds bad too. But yeah. So he did that, and then he did a couple TV series. He did the one that was Taken.
Steven Spielberg, not E.T.
No, E.T. didn't do. No, E.T. was in a commercial, though. They brought E.T. back.
They did.
E.T. and Elliot, and they have just like a year or two ago, and then they still have the ride open at Universal, which is Steven Spielberg still gives the spiel at the beginning, and the Spielberg he gives at the beginning, and hopefully they never take that ride out. It's freaking bizarre. If you guys haven't ridden the E.T. ride in Universal, so it starts out like the movie, and then apparently you take some psychedelic mushrooms or something like halfway through it, and it just comes off the freaking rails, and there's like all kinds of crazy ass space aliens and plant people, and you go to E.T.'s home planet, which looks like the Muppet Show or Labyrinth or something. But that was actually in one of the books. I remember they did a sequel book to that. But then he did Taken, and that had what's her face in it? What is her name?
I don't know.
Dakota Fanning, was that her? I don't know. Anyway, some kid that was in it, and she was like an alien hybrid. And then he did some did some other alien shows. So he's done a whole lot of alien stuff, right? Now he's going to be doing more alien stuff.
Steven Spielberg now with more aliens.
Now with even more aliens. So a lot of people think that, yeah, he's been part of the Disclosure Project, but he said he's never seen a UFO. So this is coming from Fangoria. Steven Spielberg's next project is going to be a UFO movie. Is it going to be like War of the Worlds or Close Encounters? According to Variety, he is staying busy. He's going to make his next UFO film based on his own original idea. And David Koepp, I think is the guy who did Spider-Man and he did like Indiana Jones, is writing the screenplay. Well, that was Indiana Jones. That was Indiana Jones 4. Again, aliens. Aliens. So they said aliens and UFOs have long since been a topic of Steven Spielberg.
Yes, I've sensed the theme.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Last year he produced a limited Netflix series called Encounters, which we started watching. That was
him.
That was, yeah. So look. Oh, Falling Skies. That was one. So yeah.
Falling Skies. Yes, I remember Falling Skies. He did Falling Skies?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know what that is.
And
I never watched it, but I know what it is.
He's done a lot. And then I know when we had the UFOs last year that he thinks they're from the future. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I've heard that theory before that, I've heard different theories. One, UFOs are just like our government, testing things out or just kidnapping people for experiments. There's the actual extraterrestrial ET theories, and I've heard the one where we're just coming back. It's ourselves in the future coming back to our past.
Why would we do that though? We're really not very interesting. We're not interesting at all.
Okay, look, if I can go back to the past and go hang out like in ancient Egypt or something and see what was going on, and not get killed for it because I'm ginger and I'd stand out. I totally would do it. I want to go see like the brightly colored cities and all the things that I study in art history and architecture and archaeology and things. I would love to go back and see that stuff as it was, but so I would go back.
Yeah, I guess like a curiosity. So here's what he said. This was about the time that all the UFOs were. So I'm getting to a point. I promise. Okay. I'm getting to a point.
He says he has a point, guys.
I have a point. He said, I've never seen a UFO. I wish I had.
I have.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah. He said, I've never seen anything I can't explain, but I believe certain people who have seen things that they can't explain. I think what's been coming up recently is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I think the secrecy that is shrouding all of these sightings and lack of transparency, I think there's something going on that needs extraordinary due diligence.
Well, there is a lack of transparency.
Yes.
That is true.
He said, I don't believe we're alone in the universe. I think it's mathematically impossible that we're the only intelligent species in the cosmos. I think that's totally impossible. At the same time, it also seems impossible someone would visit us from 400 million light years, except in the movies. Unless they figure out some way to do wormholes.
Yeah.
I think that's actually more plausible.
I mean that the wormholes you would have to have some kind of shortcut, to through. You wouldn't be able to spend 400 million light years doing this. Why would you?
Yeah. He said, what if it's us 500,000 years in the future that's coming back to document the second half of the 20th century into the 21st century?
Why did they pick now?
Because, look, we've had more change in the last 75 to 100 years.
Well, that's true.
Technologically,
that's true.
Could also be.
I would say it goes more than that. I think it lasts like 150 to 200 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's definitely the rate of acceleration of technology is just.
This is when it all went to shit. Let's go find out what
pretty
happened.
much. This is like the critical point in the history of our species. But yeah, he thinks there are anthropologists from the future, maybe. Which kind of goes along with Indiana Jones 4, where they weren't actually aliens; they were from like other dimensions or something.
I was thinking it.
So let's get to we're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to talk about Steven Spielberg. I know he keeps coming up on conspiracy forums, and people are like, "What do you mean conspiracy? It's all true."
What's weird? I mean, you have to actually wonder: is there some kernel of truth to it, though? Because of all the people to keep coming up, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
what I mean? It's like weird. Like that would be. I mean, the fact that these movies that a lot of people have experienced and feel it relates, did research with, and all that. It is kind of weird that it keeps going back to him. Yeah,
so they're talking. I got this article from Cracked, which is, but it kind of gives you like the whirlwind tour. And I know this is something that a lot of people, especially if they're listening to this episode, they probably know a lot more about than I do. But I have read about it. Project Serpo, which was supposed to be basically a foreign exchange program between the U.S., between Earth and the aliens that whatever planet the Roswell aliens came from.
So like the end of Close Encounters.
Yes. And supposedly this is the theory that he actually consulted with Dr. Alan Hynek, who was the big UFO.
Yes, I know who Dr. Alan Hynek is, yes.
And that he might have slipped him some information about this exchange program, which is why he made Close Encounters, because he's like, well, I can't talk about it really, but I'm going to change, put the ending of that into
I
the
can
movie.
leak it into the collective consciousness.
Right.
Okay.
Because you got
I can leak it without leaking it.
When Close Encounters came out, like nobody really was thinking along the lines of how Steven Spielberg was at the time. It did seem like kind of a jump because we were always like, oh, aliens are from outer space and they're going to kill us all and they're going to eat our brains and whatever. And he's like, no, they're abducting people, but they're not really bad. And, oh, yeah, we might exchange, humans with aliens and go to this other planet. And, oh, the aliens just happen to look like the gray aliens from Roswell. And people really didn't. That wasn't really in the collective consciousness then either.
And they communicate with tones.
Right.
Very interesting. People hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah. So, it is interesting. This was a theory. And I've heard this for a while that, apparently NASA, and I think it was kind of blown out of proportion, but NASA did not want him to make the Close Encounters movie. And people were like, well, they're trying to stop him from telling people the truth. But he said, yeah, he was just afraid that it was going to cause mass hysteria. Well,
that's what happened with the Close Encounters film. Well, they thought it was a radio show, and then people thought it was real because it was wasn't on when the news usually was. They turned it on, and here they missed the intro saying it wasn't real.
Yeah.
So people thought it was real, and they lost their crap and were jumping off buildings and stuff. At least that's the story.
Yeah, but it is weird that he back to back did Close Encounters and then turned around and did E.T., which is kind of similar.
I just thought he was going with the theme.
And, then he kind of started doing more like traditional, like action, adventure, science fiction stuff. But we had like, basically 2 Alien movies back to back that were groundbreaking and actually showing more of like.
Or devil's advocate. The studio said, hey, that movie did really well. Let's make another.
It could be that too.
I mean, just saying.
Because, money.
Devil's advocating here, or however you would say that. It could be because of money.
It could be because of money. Yeah, it could be because of money. But people actually think that he knew about Project Serpo.
Might. Who knows?
And now I've heard about this. Now, these are so-called documents that were leaked about. And this is a whole, like, rabbit hole you can go down. But apparently, yeah, we sent some of our guys to their planet, and they sent some of their guys here. And I guess on both ends of it, as I recall, like, the aliens got sick and died.
Oh, no.
And we got sick and died. And that was kind of what went down. But I mean, look, this is kind of like urban legend or whatever. But what's interesting is I think it was Gary McKinnon, the guy who hacked into the Pentagon, and he actually found names of ships that were apparently extraterrestrial ships. So I mean, if this phenomenon is real, and we're just gonna let's just assume the phenomenon is real. If the phenomenon is real, then it's possible that we've actually been sending ships out into space for decades. That there's been something going on for decades that we know more than we're letting on.
They've said before they thought that they had the helicarriers, helicrafts, what are they called? The big long things. I know in the 70s, a bunch of people saw them in PA, and I think going into other states. My parents saw one that would like this thing was as big as a football field, went really slow, really low, really quiet across, and a bunch of people saw it. It was all reported to the police. It was in the news. So we've had things from different things a while that probably are ours. So.
Yeah, so this is what Time Magazine actually had to say about 15 years ago about the Serpo. They actually covered it. I was surprised. They said that they had a meeting date set for April 1964 in New Mexico. The aliens landed and retrieved the bodies of their dead comrades from a crash. Information was exchanged. Communication was in English. So I don't know if they have like intergalactic Duolingo.
They said the aliens had a translation
device. It's called Duolingo. In 65, we had an exchange program with the aliens. So 1965, we had an exchange program with the aliens. We carefully selected 12 military personnel, 10 men and 2 women. They were trained, vetted, and carefully removed from the military system. There were 12. The 12 were skilled in various specialities. Near the northern part of the Nevada test site, the aliens landed, and the 12 Americans left. It was one that was left on Earth. The original plan was for our 12 people to stay 10 years and then return to Earth. So this does kind of go along with the end of Close Encounters, where they had a designated meeting place and they had like a handoff.
It's always in New Mexico.
It's yeah. So and this was like 10 years before he would have been filming the movie. And he's talking to Hynek. I mean, I'm just saying. It's possible. It is if this stuff is true, which we're just speculating on. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can go into we'll talk about our own Close Encounters. We'll talk about
we can, but I'm just gonna say Eric could have just heard about this and through the grapevine and made
that's true too. So I've heard, it could be that he was fascinated. He's always been fascinated with UFOs, and even back then, the FBI and Project Blue Book did have a lot of this information. So it's possible that he's just this is fascinating stuff. I'm doing a lot of reading on it, research on it, but it's weird that he is this obsessed with aliens and UFOs even now. He's up
there and he still wants to do another movie. So,
but about this could be your last movie, dude. You're going to make it about aliens again? Okay. This is like the freaking 10th alien movie you've done, but go for it, man. You're Steven Spielberg. We could talk about this. We'll talk about it a little bit.
All right.
So, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. You're the one leading this. I'm here on your show today.
Okay, that's my show.
I'll let you have this one.
Okay, so UFOs. I believe they're real. I'll go on record saying that. I think that some of them are potentially of extraterrestrial origin. I think a lot of them are actually ours.
I do think a lot of them are ours, yes.
I think that some of them might be reverse engineered from theirs. What went down last year, I don't know. I know there's a lot of weirdness. Some of the footage that's been released, I've heard conflicting stories. That some people are like, yeah, this is proof of alien technology. Other people are like, yeah, it's proof of alien technology, but not actually aliens. It's us reverse engineering alien technology. There have been plans that have come out where the government was literally trying to build flying saucers, going back to World War II.
Yeah, I know that's been going on for a while.
So I used to work for a company that was adjacent to the government. Let's I guess, can I say that? Adjacent to, is that
You
fair?
worked for a couple different, but this one was one of them.
Yeah, and we used to work with a lot of defense contractors, including, Grumman and Lockheed. And we had one guy that came in. He was actually DNX. I think he was with DNX. I don't know. But he used to come in every once in a while because we had their servers there and they would have to have their guys come in and, check the data. But yeah, he used to come in and talk to me about UFOs. And he was very like it wasn't a big deal. He would just come in, and I remember one time I was like, I forget how it came up. Like I was listening to like a paranormal podcast or something. I used to listen to like the Ghost podcast, Bigfoot podcast, whatever. And he was like, so what's on these servers? I said, no, I have no idea what's on these servers.
You're not supposed to know.
I'm not supposed to know.
He could have been messing with you.
He could. Well, no, because we had the conversation multiple times.
Oh, okay.
He was in multiple times, and
or he's like telling his friends.
No. There were lengthy conversations, but he would come in and he was like, yeah, so because we dealt mostly with like regulatory compliance, and he's like, so there is information on these servers actually pertaining to alien technology. He was like, I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, so. Because, we compartmentalize, they compartmentalize everything. Some companies do this and some companies do that, but it has to dealing with this kind of technology. I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. It's like, but look, he had me pull some stuff up. Let's just put it that way. Like, oh, this is about this and this is about that. And
I'm learning all kinds of stuff today.
Well, I forgot.
You mentioned you talked to him, but you didn't say you were pulling stuff up.
He didn't really. He just said, well, just
this
like.
This is news to me.
No, he said this.
Years ago. I've been married to you for a while.
I forgot all about it until he only did like once. He said, look, what this software would do was it basically was like compliance, like OSHA compliance notes.
For UFOs?
Not for UFOs, but like for.
That craft violated OSHA regulations. Shoot it down.
But if you're dealing with parts from wherever, and you're compartmentalizing it and you're sending it out to private corporations or whatever to disassemble, it could be like, well, this particular project here might actually be related to the thing. Anyway, it wasn't like me pulling, because I couldn't access a lot of that shit.
I was going to say, I have lots of questions after this show's over.
All right. But no, he would talk to me and he's like, yeah, so very matter of fact, he's like, yeah, so some of this is, I believe reverse engineering alien craft, and this guy would have been, I think he was with DNX, but he said yes. He said basically all stuff's privatized.
Well, at least they know you can keep a secret because you didn't even tell your wife.
I forgot all about it until now. I was like, oh yeah, he did actually pull
maybe
something.
they like
maybe it isn't Men in Black. Maybe they did. I don't know, because I literally forgot that he. It wasn't like a big deal. It was just like, well, this could be about like whatever. It wasn't very I wasn't like pouring through the files, right? Because I didn't have access to most of that stuff, which is weird. I mean, I thought that was kind of weird too. But like, I worked at this job for 5 or 6 years, and I didn't have access to a lot of the servers because they were actually government owned servers, or the corporations owned the servers, and we would house them. My boss was actually a senator, and we would house the servers in our basement. But they would come in with their people, and they're the only ones that were allowed in the server room. Like if it was Lockheed or something like that. But mostly it was regulatory compliance. It was like, Chrysler was an account we had, and Halliburton, and like, are you making sure you're not polluting the ponds so we don't have any like three-eyed fish or anything like on The Simpsons, we get sued, that kind of stuff. But he was like, yeah, if you dig, he's like, you could find some supporting evidence that, we're dealing with stuff that's not exactly terrestrial, but they're never going to explicitly say like, hey, this is from that wrecked alien craft or whatever. He's like, you have to know what you're looking for. But he said, this is just kind of matter of fact in these circles. People are like, yeah, we've been reverse engineering for stuff, or we've been reverse engineering stuff for decades. And sometimes the people working on it don't even know where it came from. Exactly. They're just like, can you figure this out? Here's a piece of it here. And then they would send like another piece to another company or whatever. And that's how they kind of would keep it. And that does jive with some of the stuff that I've seen come out in more recent years about people talking about how they would roll out, like technological advancements and stuff. And again, that's if you believe this stuff. Not everybody believes this stuff.
Clearly he does.
But as far as like, whether or not, well, okay, so the most of the conversation I remember was about the UFO. I saw a UFO when I was in California. It was a black triangle. Went right over our house. I was outside at the time.
This was before me.
I was like 14 or 15 years old. And it went right over our house. I was on the patio. It was probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Very slow, no noise. Like 3 lights, I think, like one in each corner. And it's just real slow. Now, it's weird. I never made the connection that it was a UFO. I just thought it was a weird looking plane because we lived pretty close to the Concord naval bases, and we'd get planes and jets and stuff, all the time. I never really thought, because I'm thinking UFO is going to be a silver flying saucer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later that other people are like, oh yeah, there's these, they call them the black deltas. And it's like, oh yeah, the black deltas, and they're these big, planes or whatever, and they're alien technology. It's like, I saw one of those when I was in California. Wait, that's like an alien thing? Like, I had no idea. I never got like alien vibes off of this thing. I don't know if there are such a thing as like alien vibes, but I never got that. I was just like, that is a very, very large, very quiet, slow moving plane. That's weird. And that's about all I thought of it, until years later. But I mentioned it to this guy, and he said, oh yeah, it's one of ours. He said it's actually a Delta, and like he said, yeah, Lockheed makes them. And then I did a little bit of digging, and apparently there was a patent out there for this thing. It basically was like a big, like you're talking a helicarrier. It was basically like a big like helicarrier type thing, and there are like several versions of these, black ops vehicles. Now, whether or not they're reverse engineered from alien technology, I don't know. But I saw it, I still remember it. And I had no idea that it was like, oh, that's a UFO, I'm not going to make 50 movies about it or anything, though.
Well, you could. Maybe make some money.
I could. So tell me about your aliens.
Which one?
You've had several.
Several different ones. I lived out in the country, so we used to see all kinds of stuff. And now I grew up, my parents are both pilots, and my dad was an aircraft mechanic. And I grew up in an airport, so I know my planes. I know what planes are. I can identify the difference. When I was a kid, a couple different things would happen. A lot of times there was multiple witnesses. I know one time back in the day with the big camcorders that you had to put in your shoulder because they were like, the size of like a little suitcase. We had just gotten our camera back. We literally were coming back from picking it up from being repaired at like Montgomery Ward's or Sears or something. And we had just gotten it fixed because it wasn't working. And we're on our way home. And my mom keeps looking up at the sky, like she's looking at something. Now, I remember my parents were both pilots. My mom used to run an airport, so she knew what she was looking at. And we got to the house, and we got out of the car, and there's this big ball of light in the sky. And my mom, we get the camera out. We're going to record it, So we get the camera out. Camera won't work. We're like, maybe they didn't fix it like they thought, even though we tested it at the store, and it worked fine. Camera wouldn't work. But this ball, like, it was round, and then all of a sudden these little smaller balls were like shooting out from it in different colors, and they come back in, and they go back out, and they come back in, and they go different distances each time. A couple of them went down like into the woods, which wasn't a very comforting thing, and then eventually just went away. I don't remember if it faded out or flew away. I can't remember. But as soon as it was gone, I do remember the camera worked. As soon as it wasn't there anymore. And we were like, that's weird. That was one of them. I know we used to see stuff all the time. One time we had a pool party. It was night in our backyard. We had a big pool. A bunch of people were there, and we watched this one light that kept like kind of bopping around above the tree line, and then it just shot from one side of the sky, one side of the horizon, clear to the other side of the horizon, in just a couple seconds. Everybody saw it. Like, did you see that? Yeah, we saw it. I mean, stuff like that. My mom used to see stuff when she was at the airport, like these like these silver dots, that look like silver ships, and they would just shoot straight up in the air, and the radio would go weird when it would happen. I know you and I saw the one thing that looked like a giant, almost like a blimp, but it wasn't.
Yeah, that was weird. We were actually, I forgot all about that one time.
Over, and where it was located was we were at
over by the airport.
It was over by where my parents were in the airport. Yes.
Yeah, we were actually coming down the hill, and you could see the whole.
Yeah, they lived several miles from there, but you could see clear over the whole area.
And yeah, this thing, it looked like a really just a long blimp or something. It was like a cigar shaped, very long. I didn't really think much of it. I was thinking it was like the Goodyear blimp or something.
It had no markings or anything though, and it wasn't like there was no basket on it. It was just a cigar shape.
It just looked like a long cylinder, and it black, maybe it wasn't.
No, it was more silver, but yeah.
I don't know. It was really long. That was like, I'm like, yeah, that's not really a blend. And then it was gone.
I asked around, no one saw it. I mean, they hadn't seen anything, but it was weird. But it was over that same vicinity, the same area. We were just way far away from it. We used to see stuff like that all the time. I mean, we'd go out at night and you'd always see something. It was just.
Well, I think it's getting harder to hide it from people if it's actually going on, because everybody's got a cell phone now. Everybody's got an HD cell phone. It's not like back in the day where people had flip phones and they're like and jiggle vision.
Weird to me is you have phones. Now, I guess it's hard at night to record, but like some of the videos you see people record, and they're supposed to be recording this because, it's happening, but the videos look like crap. It's like, I don't understand it. How can the videos be so terrible?
Yeah, I mean, do I think people are faking footage for internet clout? Yeah, I think that is, because we watch like Paranormal Caught on Camera, and that one.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That one that always gets me is that Dobby on the night. Nighttime camera or whatever.
It's an alien.
Yeah, it's an alien. It's like, no, it's a skinny kid wearing a Dobby mask running around. And
I just think it's funny. You literally can see the strings, or it's so fake, and they're just like, this is pure evidence. They have to believe everything you show them, and it's so funny because they just give you the stupidest thing, and they're like, it's so real. It's probably this and the this and the this, who's known in folklore as this, and you're just like, it's clearly fake. It always amuses me. It really amuses me.
Well, they wouldn't have a show if they were just like, yeah, it's fake, 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 fake. People have tried doing that. Like, the skeptic shows never really work out. That's like when they did the reboot of Ghost Hunters with Grant, and he was like shooting everything down. It's like, no, people don't want that. They want freaking like demon possession in every episode. Like, somebody's head has to spin around and puke come out of their nose or whatever. It's the same with the UFO thing. They used to have the UFO hunters. I think it was Bill Burns, and it was like, every episode has to be the most dramatic thing ever because it's boring otherwise. Like, we went out and we stood in the cornfield for like,
we're all hybrids.
8 hours. Yeah. Oh my God. That's when the show like jumped the shark. It was like, you show up at this guy's house. He's like, yeah, so I think you're an alien hybrid. And the other dude pulled him out of the house and was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. I didn't see it, but
you can't tell people that. It's so weird. But yeah, I mean, as far as like Hollywood celebrities having stuff, like Jackie Gleason, this is the story I've heard, but he swore that Richard Nixon took him to go look at alien bodies. That was like, and he was.
How does that lead up to that? Like,
I don't know. They're like golf buddies or something.
Hey, you want to see any dead alien? Like,
it's kind of like,
seriously?
It's kind of like Stand By Me. Do you want to see a dead body? We got dead bodies on ice. Yeah, that was apparently what happened. That was like, apparently he was buddies with Richard Nixon, and Richard Nixon took Jackie Gleason to go.
Isn't always the best at telling the truth, though, either.
Well, no, I guess this is something that, again, this is urban legend, but I guess like Jackie Gleason swore until the day he died that like he went and saw aliens. Like, it was. He
might have.
I mean, who knows?
No, I'm just messing. I mean, I honestly have the same thought of Steven Spielberg, which it's a big universe. We can't be all here by ourselves. I've seen a lot of crap over the years. And that can't be explained. I've seen things that could be explained. I do think that there are things that are ours that get mistaken for, unidentified flying objects or what they call them, UAPs now.
They call them UAPs now. Well, I mean, technically it is. I mean, it is an unidentified aerial phenomenon if you don't know what kind of plane it is or what kind of,
I've seen many things. I mean, just recently, it was a couple years ago, we were going to Florida, and I was the only one that was awake.
I forgot about that.
Because you guys are sleeping in the car, because we like to drive overnight.
You lazy bastards.
Because it's so much easier to do it at night when there's not as much traffic on the road and everybody's sleeping, and then it goes faster. So it was my turn to drive, and I was driving, and this thing looked like a flare almost, came like down, didn't go up, this was coming down from the sky, and it was coming at an angle, and then just stopped like in midair. Like at first I thought it was just a flare, and it just stopped. And then it just started maneuvering all over the place, and then just took off. And that was weird. And then by the time I got you awake, it was already gone. But yeah, that's the last thing I've seen. I mean, other than things around here that could or couldn't be, they're just weird.
So this is funny. So can I talk about this? The Starlink.
Oh no, that was funny.
Okay,
that scared the crap out of us.
So right in the middle of, and it's kind of like you see speaking of Spielberg, it was 1945. Was that the movie 1941? I just had to Google. It was 1941. I'm like
40 something.
It was 1940 something. James Belushi, and it was Spielberg. It was Spielberg.
Was
that
Spielberg also?
Yeah, Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who all did Back to the Future. But yeah, so they were all panicked about being invaded, and it was kind of that way. I think last year when all this all the UAP stuff was going down, and the Canadian weather balloons and all this stuff. And so you guys being
me and my son, we were outside, and we were going to go for walks. We go for walks all the time, and we often go in after dark, especially it was February or March or whatever. And we were outside, and we're just strolling along, and then our son goes, "What is that?" And I look up, and what turned out to be Starlink, but. At the time, it was just like a bunch. It was really long, and there's a lot of lights, and it was because it had just launched, so it wasn't like it had been spreading out. Which where we're at, you see Starlinks often, but at the time we had just moved here too, so we didn't know. And I went running back to get you, and I shouldn't have done that because I just left our son there. Don't worry, he's an adult at the time.
Oh, don't worry, the aliens will leave him alone.
And I just left him there. Should have done that. But by the time I got you, it was already gone, disappeared. But we were like trying to figure out what it was, and then it turned out to be Starlink, which we kind of figured. We looked into it. We're like, well, it could have been. What could it be? And then Starlink came up, and that's what it was. We see Starlink all the time around here.
Now,
in different phases of deployment. Sometimes you just see it like, a line of stars. It looks like stars spaced out really far apart. Other time, it just, But anyway, it was Starlink. But it was at that time, it scared the crap out of us because we're like, what the heck? But then we went and looked at and see what it was right away and saw.
So I mean,
it was freaky though, but really cool to see. If you ever get a chance to see them, they're cool.
So I have to wonder. I have to wonder on some level, maybe the reason we haven't heard more about like disclosure and stuff like that, and it's kind of been memory hold, is they don't want people to panic. Maybe it was a test to see, what I'm saying, see how people react, and people really kind of freaked out about it. I mean, people were kind of, okay. Some people were freaking out about it. Actually, I was surprised at how many people were like, oh yeah, there might be aliens. Yeah, let's go back to fighting each other on social media.
Probably. I think honestly, most people believe it anyway. Like it's not like it was, when Close Encounters came out. It's not like it was even 30 years ago. People, they're just much more open to it, and they're more willing to believe it than they were then. You got people think that there's reptilians, in office. So,
Yeah, that's a whole nother. So
they're more open to it now, and they're just like, and
it's like, what do you mean? Just like plain old bug-eyed aliens? Like they're not brain-sucking lizard people?
It's mainstream. Boring. It's mainstream now. Not just in movies, but like on TV shows. Like how many, unexplained TV shows are out there? UFO TV shows, and people watch it for entertainment. And I don't think that they're so shocked now. Like that's not surprising.
Well, and that actually takes us back to the initial discussion about Steven Spielberg, that people thought because of the newfound clout that Steven Spielberg had, that they were using him, the government was using him to break the ice, and his friend George Lucas, who would do Star Wars, to break the ice, about aliens and extraterrestrials. When in reality, I'm thinking, there may have been some truth to that, but these guys both grew up in the 50s, and sci-fi was really big, and War of the Worlds, and
I just think it's more about what they were into.
Yeah,
but
but
I think especially with Close Encounters, because there's lots of aspects of that have come out that they were probably taken from actual. I think he did his research. Like, I think he heard the stories. He was very interested in the possible realities of it, and he went and researched it, and then made a movie. Where he interconnected different things that he heard about. That's also possible. Yeah,
it's kind of like second or third hand information, right? Like I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend,
or someone told him all this and he just put it in a movie.
That'd be a great movie. Like, hey, Steven.
And it was a good movie.
Yeah, hey, Steven, here's what happened. Project Serpo. But yeah, a whole Serpo thing. That's like a whole. It's been years since I read the supposed document on it. They had a comic book. They had a comic book about it. They had a graphic novel about it.
But that doesn't surprise me.
But that's one of those things that
surprised you don't own it.
I don't own it. I saw it at a comic convention. I almost bought it, but I'm like, eh.
But I'm surprised you didn't buy it.
I should have bought it, but I didn't buy it. Anyway, but it's kind of like one of those things that were kind of like a weird fringe, like that and Dulce Base and these things that were kind of like internet, early internet urban legends or stuff that wound up on like Coast to Coast or, but Serpo, like nobody talks about that.
Well, I don't even know what half the stuff is, and you usually start talking about it, and I'm like, what now?
I'm a dork.
My mother, like, is into this stuff too, so she's always like, let me talk to your husband about this stuff. I need to talk to him about this stuff.
Ancient astronaut theorists say. No, but I think it's possible that Steven Spielberg had some information, and that's why who
knows? We don't know.
And that's why he's so fascinated by it,
Plausible deniability. It's possible.
Plausible deniability, yeah. I don't think you're going to get like a deathbed confession or something like, yeah, I've been working with the aliens all along or anything like that. But interesting stuff. Yeah, he's making more movies. And E.T. still looks like a nutsack.
I look forward to seeing what he does.
Yeah, me too. His movies are kind of hit or miss. It's like for every good Steven Spielberg movie, you get like two that aren't that great and then like one that everybody forgets about. But
well, no, I'm just curious to see what he does at this point in time.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
I think we're going to wrap it up. So, guys, please subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to Clownfish TV on YouTube. Check out our Patreon. We're going to do Patreon now. We'll go patreon.com/Clownfish TV. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening. More news and videos are available on our website at www.clownfishtv.com and on our YouTube channel, Clownfish TV. You can buy official merchandise, Clownfish comic books, and more at shopclownfish.com. If you like this show, please consider subscribing and leaving us a positive review on iTunes and other podcast platforms. If you're looking to help support this show financially, go to clownfishsupport.com. If you would like to sponsor an episode of this show, send us an email at business@webreef.io. This podcast is a production of Clownfish Studios, LLC and Web Reef Media, proudly made in Pittsburgh, USA.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.